and start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And since I forgot to do it before that, we're going to do our invocation at this point. Approach the podium and give your name and affiliation. And
I'm Nicolette Benoit. I am here with Tapestry. I am a missionary on furlough from the Philippines, and I have this year just to serve at Elko Market and to serve at Tapestry. So I just get a chance and a blessing just to pray over you guys before the meeting starts. So just bow your heads and pray with me. Lord, you are so good, and you have so many good things in store for Elko Market here in this town, God. I just pray a blessing over each one of these city council members' minds, God, and that you would just bless them with new ideas, God. You bless them with new dreams and just new ways just to bring beautiful life, God, to Elko Market. And I just pray a blessing over Mayor Crawford, Lord, that you would just, God, just pour out yourself on Mayor Crawford and just give him just prosperity to everything he does, Lord, and just a blessing to the things he puts his mind to, he puts his hands to, Lord, and just for the ideas and dreams that you give him, Lord. And so I just pray a blessing over the city, God, of Elko Market, and that life would just dwell here, and that beauty would just spring up all over in all the different areas, God, and in the elementary school and in the fire department and all the different businesses, Lord, and that, that life would just spring forth here, Lord. God, I just praise you so much for the work you're doing here, Lord, and I praise you so much for each one of these people, God, and their dedication to serve this community, Lord. So just bless each and every one of them tonight, and just bless their mouths. They just bring forth new ideas and discuss new things, Lord, and that you would just give them minds to be able to solve problems and just to bring peace and just great peace, Lord, over this area. We love you, Lord, so much, and in your beautiful and holy name we pray. Amen.
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any changes in the agenda?
Council will find before it an amended agenda. You'll note that item G under the consent agenda has been moved down to item B under the general business because Kate was the signatory for the Chamber of Commerce on that application, and also as an officer of the organization, she will have to abstain. I also want to talk to the council with regards to the agenda. I had scheduled a closed meeting for discussion of the labor contract in the event that the council did want to discuss the labor contract. If you don't feel a need for the closed meeting, we can eliminate it from the agenda and simply have it approved as part of the consent agenda.
Is there questions, Joe?
Question is for Council Member Timmons. You were the council representative on the labor negotiation.
Timmerman.
Timmerman, I'm sorry.
Sorry, I was looking at you with
I
those
was-
drunken eyes.
Pulling a Bob Crawford there, sorry about
Well,
that.
thank you.
I'm just curious on your opinion if there's some items you felt we needed to discuss in the closed meeting.
You know, the meeting went very well, very informative. For me, as it being my first one, I thought it went extremely smooth. They came to us with a lot of ideas and new things they wanted to put in to their negotiations, and I think we met them halfway in the middle, and they left happy, and I think it's for the betterment of the city, the things that we have proposed in the paper that you'll see. I thought it went very smooth and very good.
Okay.
I don't see that there's any questions, but obviously if you have questions, now would be the time to ask.
No, I just wanted your opinion.
I looked it over and I thought it was you did a very good job. It was a very fair contract up to both sides, and I commend you on.
Well, with the help of Mr. Tom Terry.
So does anybody have any questions that we need to hold a closed meeting, or can we amend the agenda and?
I asked my questions to Tom. I'm not a union person, so this is just, I had some questions that I asked, and it is what it is, and whether we agree with it all or not. I assume that the work was done, and
So we need a motion to approve the agenda as amended without the closed meeting?
A motion to approve the agenda without the closed meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved. Okay, we move to the consent agenda. Any questions on any items? Motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Timmons, second by Timmerman. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. No public hearings, we move to general business. Item A.
This is a request for the council to approve an authorization of a grant for the CDA's EDI grant program. I'll turn it over to Renee to give the presentation on that.
Really pretty straightforward. It's kind of a phase 2 of the grant application we submitted last year, which started some initial study on the Edelman properties. And this is phase 2, which would allow them to complete a tree inventory, wetland delineation, and then completion of the AUAR, which is the final environmental study that's required before development. So the application we are seeking is for $85,000. It's a competitive grant. I have informed the CDA that the application is forthcoming. It does qualify, just will depend on the other applications that they receive. And then we will follow, if we are awarded a grant, we will enter into a agreement with the Edelman family, or they will pay the matching, the required matching funds. So there is no impact to the city finances other than staff time to be the coordinator.
Any questions on Resolution 1784? Motion?
So moved.
Motion by Timmons, second by Timmerman. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Item B, Resolution 1783.
Yep, we have a resolution to approve outdoor concert events permit for the annual Christmas tree lighting. This item, as I indicated, has been removed from the consent agenda because the signatory for the application is Kate, and also as the president of the organization will have to abstain from the vote on this item.
Any questions on this item? Need a motion?
Motion to approve Resolution 17-83.
Second.
Motion by Julius, second by Timmons. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Wait, opposed? Abstain?
Abstain.
Vote passes 4-1, 4-0 and 1. One abstention, sorry. Now we're to reports. Public Works, any more information, any questions on that?
Nope, Corey had other obligations this evening, so he asked me to answer any questions that you had, and any I couldn't, he would respond via email or at the next meeting.
Any questions on the Public Works?
Nope.
Police Department?
Nothing to add to my monthly report, unless there's any questions. Only one other item I have, and I believe, if I remember right, Tom sent it out in the email, the link. Hopefully everybody got a chance to see the news story on Tyler, the donut boy. Yeah, Tyler, the donut boy, he lives in Florida, and his lifelong goal is to become a police officer. Specifically, he wants to be a canine officer. And he's doing kind of this like birthday kind of tribute to the police. He's trying to get 10 states in 10 days. And basically what he did is he came to Minnesota, and it was at the Mall of America. And his goal is to give a donut to each police officer just to say thanks for their service. So an invite was put out, basically statewide, but really concentrating in the metro. So Josh and John went, represented us, and on that news story, Channel 4, 9, and 11, I don't know, I didn't see anything on 9 or 11, but Channel 4 did a story on it, and our cops were the first ones on there, which is great. Great picture with them, and then another little shot of Josh with them. We presented him with a badge, one of our pens that we have made up for our police department, and then we just did challenge coins. That was a departmental thing that we wanted to do, so John got the address from Mom, and he'll be sending a couple challenge coins out to him, so it was a great PR plug. The unfortunate thing, John reported back when him and Josh were up there, at the time, there was only like 25 officers there, considering this one, especially like in the metro. So pretty happy that we were represented and we got the media time, plus the other little plug that I'd like to throw in for our agency is, outside of us, Savage was the only other police department Scott County represented, so. Sad, but at the same time, good plug for us, so. Yeah, it was really nice, and the guys had a blast. So, it was a good time, so. That's all I have.
Any other questions?
Sorry, just, can we talk about curfew for just a
Absolutely.
moment? I think it's, especially if anybody's gonna watch this, to reach as many people as we can that, so really, that was brought on by the vandalism that's happening?
Yeah, a lot
Predominantly?
of vandalism, nuisance calls, we kind of categorize it nuisance. We didn't really have much property damage, so to speak. The porta potties tipped over, park benches moved from their location to like the middle of the street, and a lot of the ding-dong ditch. So, I mean, we had some frustrated residents, and so our response to it is, we put out a Facebook post on it, that we're gonna crack down on it. What we have done in the past is, when we catch the juveniles out after curfew, send an escort home and talk to Mom and Dad. We decided that we're going to start issuing a citation. There's gonna be some responsibility now. Citation for a juvenile in this situation, I mean, we're not looking at trying to hit a pocketbook or anything like that, but if they have to go in front of the court or in front of a judge or something, it also is an inconvenience for Mom and Dad. That's where it starts. Starts at home. Now I know sometimes kids sneak out, moms and dads don't know, and some of the dealings that we've had when we brought the kids home is, you know, there's been repercussions at home, which, you know, we're glad to see. There's, you know, the parents have owned up to it and taken care of it. We want to enforce that a little bit more, so.
Is there any possibility of a community service, or, I mean, so if you're catching that repeat offenders, do we have any recourse ourselves?
Oh, yeah, a lot of times the courts will do that, or the county attorney's office in the juvenile division, you know, depending, if it gets to that point, they will contact us, and it's like, is there something that you can have to use to, I mean,
Okay.
you know, it could be cleaning up a park, it can be, you know, doing some type of community service, yeah, and generally speaking, especially like first time, maybe second time offenses, that's the way the court, that's been my experience in the past, that's the way the court
That's
will do
good.
it. It's like, okay, you're gonna go back and do something good for your community now
Right.
versus, you know, doing something bad, so,
Okay.
yeah.
Isn't sometime the community service of where you have to have somebody watching them do the project?
So community service isn't as easy as it sounds, because typically you need to provide some supervision.
Sure.
Especially when you're dealing with juveniles. You need to have the supervision, but you're also limited in what you can have them do. And you incur a certain amount of liability when they're doing community service for you with regards to what they're doing, which also gets back to the supervision. So it really depends on who and what and when as to whether or not it makes sense, but it's not as, you know, it's not as easy as have Billy just go down to the park. You know, if something happens to Billy while he's down at the park, or, you know, it's sometimes a little more complicated than that, but we have in the past made use of community service, and sometimes it just came because Mom and Dad are like, you're gonna do something, okay, wash the police cars. I mean, stuff like that does happen.
Okay.
Well, and that's why a lot of times the county attorney's office will reach out to us first. It's like, this is what the court would like to see, is there something, and for like what Tom said, yeah, you can't just put them in a certain area of your city and say, okay, there you go, do your thing. First of all, you have to monitor to make sure what's requested of them is being done, so. You know, it isn't quite that easy, but yeah, we have done it in the past before, so.
Sometimes it's easier if they go to a food shelf or something like that, where they're in a structured environment, where they're doing community good, but it's a lot easier to supervise, make sure that they do what they're doing. They still learn the lesson of community service.
Yeah, it just feels like it just feels like an equitable punishment, give something back.
That's the intent, exactly what you just said there. It's like you did this to the community, now you're gonna give something back to the community.
I just wanted to ask the question so we know that we've got to have something for them to do and realize we got to have supervision for them when they do it. So it's not always easy. So anyway, any other questions for the police on the police report? So we're on no fire department engineering.
Did not escape my notice that the proposals for engineering services were due today at 4:30. I did submit mine, just curious if there's an update on that process available.
Yes.
Because I will be asked.
Yes, I was in some meetings this afternoon, so I have to double check email, but at last toll, we had at least 4 in the door by the deadline. I will note that BMI was the first to submit, so.
Thank you.
Any questions on anything for engineering? Okay, we'll move on to community development.
I think the only thing that I want to report is that I have met twice now with a representative working for the buyer of our Dakota Acres property. They're pretty certain they're going to put in a application for tax credits. They're federal dollars that are administered by Minnesota Housing. It's a very competitive process. A lot of times they'll want to see city participation in creating a affordable housing project, and I would expect to see probably a TIP application for the project. They're pretty far along in their pro forma. There's a couple of unknowns that they need to do some engineering before they can really nail down some of the costs on finishing out that road and exactly how many additional units they can get in. They have a number they're planning for, but until it's drawn up, we don't really know. So, but I expect that you would be asked to participate somehow on that project.
Trish?
Just curious, are we talking townhome type development? Okay, not apartments. Okay.
So in their pro forma, they have it broken down into 2 phases. The phase 1 is just to finish out the existing townhome units that are already platted. And then phase 2 is the unplatted area that they would need to come in flat. And I would venture to say that down the road, there could be a phase 3 where they may consider purchase of the rest of our property. But that's not in their pro forma that they've shared.
Do you know, Renee, if the standards for low-income housing and to get Minnesota housing help are the same for townhomes as they are for apartment buildings? Because I know for apartment buildings, it's a certain percentage or a minimum of 4 for each homeless and low income?
I am not,
Okay.
and I'm not qualified to answer that.
So we'll find out that when we
It'll be a
probably
learning process for me, for sure.
I think this is awesome, and this is something that we could be on the front edge of, especially in an affluent community, to bring in something like this. I mean, this is not only PR, but it helps our community, it helps Scott County, and there's just so much, there's no affordable housing anywhere in the metro, let alone Minnesota. So as much as we can help or participate, or even if it's not financial, whatever, I mean, we help this process go as smoothly as possible, because this could bring more positive attention to our community and show how we're actually trying to help. So I think this is awesome, and I wish more people would be doing it.
I can say that in Scott County, there's 2 projects that have went forward. One's 49 and I think one's 57. And each one has a total of 8 units. They're either homeless or low income. They both met the bottom, so they have to have 4 of each.
I think 12 of their recollection is that 20% of the units have to be considered affordable.
Yeah, it's 20%. It was it's 20% or 4 is what I was told at another meeting. So,
Okay.
And to Renee's point, I mean, this is super uber competitive for this money. So it's typically the same 4 or 5 bigger name people that get this money every single year. So if we can help somebody else get into that and be a part of cracking that seal, it'd be kind of cool.
I think the biggest problem we're going to have is we have no transit. But I think we have to push the fact, and I think Renee can maybe help with the fact that we do have SmartLink available. It's not fixed route transit, but it is transit available in our city, so.
Well, and not to belabor this point, but you brought it up. You know, I think we should start thinking ahead because these are the types of things, and we got to be real about it, that communities push back against. I mean, they hear affordable housing and they think of the worst case scenario. So, I mean, as we all start having questions or get questions, I think we should be prepared to educate all of us as well as any of those in the community that are going to raise concerns, because concerns are going to get raised. So we just kind of try and get in front of that as much as possible.
Right. I mean, I don't know about anybody else, but I didn't start off in the home I have today. So.
No, and this is one of the good things they are discussing at 50 by 30 is the education, so, for homes, so.
Okay.
Anything else for community development? Any other questions? Parks, any questions on the Parks Commission report? Let's see, we get to the others. Scale is tomorrow. This should be a good meeting.
Do you know what's on the agenda?
I'm drawing a blank because I worked today, and I didn't get a chance to review everything before I came to the meeting. Worked till 5 o'clock. But one thing that will be coming up at the next Scale executive meeting is they are reviewing the 50 by 30 budget and setting a budget for them for next year because of what they discovered from the past budgets. The Marnitas table item that I mentioned, they're talking $60,000 on that item alone for 3 dinners, 3 meetings.
So I do need a correction, as I had to double check, but Scale is actually next Friday. They
Oh, that's
moved
right.
it in
They moved
November.
Oh,
So it isn't, I do have
So
to,
you have time to review.
yeah.
I have time to review it. Well, I won't be there next Friday.
Okay. Oh, that's
I
right.
will.
Yep, so what's on that agenda is they're going to have the Minnesota State demographer, Susan Brower, there, talking about the changing demographics in Minnesota and what we can expect in the future, and that's always a really interesting presentation.
Can you just make sure that we can get a copy of that? That would be awesome.
We'll see.
We can,
What time is that meeting?
7:30 on Friday morning. Not this Friday, but the next
Is
Friday.
it possible for one of us to go in lieu of you since you
Yes.
will not be there?
In fact, at the Scale meeting, if you let Tom know, we can post it and everybody can go.
I would like to go just to see, I've never been to a scale meeting, so I think it would be
You
interesting.
will meet a lot of very interesting people.
7:30, and can you just send me information on where I have to go?
I'm
Fire
just
Lake
Prior
City
Lake
Hall.
City
Fair Lake
Hall.
City Hall.
invite you from my calendar right now.
MVTA is not later in the month. I-35 Solutions,
I passed her over to Tom to get out to the group the projects that are slotted for 2018 and forward. So it's a long list and it includes everything statewide, as far as where the monies are going from our MnDOT. I don't know, but Tom, can you scan this and just send it to folks? You guys don't really need to look at it now. That was the main discussion, so. That, and they touched again on the 494-35 exchange, that form. They want us to do the, submit the letter, but they're still trying to finalize what it's gonna look like and because we don't know what the ask is yet. MnDOT hasn't put everything out yet, so that'll be coming later this month or early December.
Tom Wolf made a joke yesterday and said that if they don't approve the money, they're just gonna turn it into a big roundabout.
Yeah, he said that today too.
That's got county won't participate in.
So that's it.
We don't want to get them too mad. We're still looking for the other side of the other side of two for what they were going to cover all the cost for our industrial park, so. We are getting stuff from them, it's just not maybe all that we want. Okay, then we're down to Chamber of Commerce.
December 2nd is our annual tree lighting, 6 PM, 6:30 will be the actual tree lighting. I'm hoping that you will be there,
I
Mr.
plan on
Mayor.
being there.
Okay, and then December 8th is our ladies' night out. I'm looking for vendors. They do not have to be chamber members. I am looking to fill the basement of Double Wide, looking to fill the Firehouse Grill, looking to fill Tapestry and Triage with the vendors so that these ladies have something to shop with. So, if you guys know of any, push them out there and have them go to our website and sign up. Other than that, yes, I can announce it now. Our new administrative assistant will be Erin Smith. She is a local gal here in Elko New Market. I'm excited to have her on board, ecstatic to have her on board. She will be taking over a lot of the things that I was consuming and some of my other constituents were consuming, so it's great.
Has the job description for that position changed at all from what it was previously?
No.
What time is the tree
Steve?
lighting, did you say?
6
Oh,
o'clock we start, 6:30 is
Excuse me,
scheduled.
6 to 6:30.
please, one at a time, and I just recognize Steve.
I got a question for you, Kate.
Mhm.
Erin, when is she starting?
She's already started.
Okay.
Yes,
We'll probably contact you to contact her or the shop, the cop will need to
Yes.
start here soon, so I'm assuming she's the one that'll be.
yes, she will be in charge of handling
Okay.
that. But you know what, you have worked with Dawn in the past, so let's keep it with Dawn right now, because I have a lot of
Oh,
other
okay.
things on Erin's plate
Okay.
right now to just get things organized for us. So
Perfect.
I would stay working with Dawn on it, and then she can forward me anything
Okay.
that needs to be done.
Perfect.
Joe, you had a question?
I got an answer.
Okay.
I was just asking the time of the tree lighting.
Okay, we're on to regional council meetings is until Monday, and I will make that before I go out of town. CCEC, I'm assuming that we're not gonna get a report unless Sandy left one.
No.
Downtown Improvement Committee?
We canceled the meeting that was scheduled. There really wasn't a lot covered necessarily at that particular meeting, but talked about our first meeting in December, or only meeting in December, kind of setting the table and planning for 2018 and the projects we want to do. Would like to get timelines and all that stuff, but we'll see how the meeting goes, and I'll update the council accordingly.
Any questions?
I'm sorry, Kate, I
No,
didn't mean to
you're
steal your
fine.
thunder.
You're not stealing it, you're fine.
We're on 50 by 30 collective impact. Steering committee discussed Ornita's table again, and they're still stuck on doing 3 dinners. So far, they've done one in 2017, and the cost on that was $20,000. Next year, they're gonna do one at the end of January, one at the end of February, and one at the end of March, at a cost of $60,000. Which, with between 100 to 200 people at each dinner, of which probably 25 to 50 people will be either 50 by 30 members or county staff. So we're spending $60,000 to get input from possibly 400 people.
That's a perfect amount of silence to get me to react, or somebody to react.
Can I ask what the purpose is of this dinner?
It's to build relationships with community members that we normally wouldn't have talked to.
At the whose expense?
Scale's expense.
How's Scale funded, Mr. Mayor?
Scale is funded through city participation and county participation and 1 township participation.
Sorry, tax revenues.
So tax
Yeah,
revenues.
tax revenues, approximately $2,000 a year from the city of Elko, New Market goes to our scale for those expenses.
So things that it's funded in the past have been like the Transportation Economic Development Initiative, and other similar efforts. over
First
the
Stop
years.
Shop.
50 by 30 is just the most recent initiative that is being funded.
And,
Yeah, go ahead.
and we feel that spending this amount of money for a dinner is necessary? Do you personally, do you know if your constituents feel that this is something that is necessary to get the word out there and to meet these people, or is this just?
That is exactly why, this is the first time in history that the Scale Executive Committee has asked a subcommittee like they never did with Ted or anybody else, asked for a budget in advance. Now, if we don't approve the budget in December for 2018, this may go away.
When is the December meeting? And we should probably post it, because I think it'd be good for us to be there.
Well, the problem is it's an executive committee meeting,
So
and it's,
welcome to attend, but it's only one vote, one representative per organization. So in the past, usually what's happened is things have been very project specific. It was a relatively large project that had grown up, and there was a work plan, and it was so, okay, here's the project, here's the budget, and it was authorized. With 50 by 30, with it having its own administrative staff and everything, it's running rapidly, and the dollars are different, and the number of dollar requests are different than what it's been. It's not as project-based as it has been in the past, so to speak. And so the executive committee basically said, we don't want you to have to necessarily come back to us for every little thing, but we also need to know what's going on. So you're going to have to give us a budget in advance for your work plan for the year. And if anything varies from that, then you're going to have to come back to us. And that's where the direction where things have naturally evolved to.
and I think there's enough, the feeling with most of the people on the executive committee is that it's probably kind of silly, but then the biggest contributor is the county to the budget, because it's 50 cents per person based on the year that that they set the contribution. That's why we're at 2,000. But the county feels that it's, the county commissioner that's on the executive committee doesn't feel some of the expenses are unwarranted, or he'd like to see it play out, so when we do cancel the whole project or parts of the project, it's politically, he can sell it politically.
Who is that, Commissioner?
Commissioner Ulrich.
And has anybody either on the executive committee or in Scale that's there regularly actually voiced any of these concerns in a public meeting, or is this just kind of the feeling that we get?
I think I've voiced a lot of concerns. And there's others that are, actually one that was very strongly in favor of it now says, well, and I'm not going to say who, but just his feeling is, well, we'll just give them enough rope to hang themselves so it's politically palatable to end it, because it's a very socially conscious program that just to end it could result in some negative press. So it's got to kind of die its own death. I mean, there are good things that could come out of it, but I think they're going about it in the wrong way. And I mean, I looked at our budget, and $70,000 of the budget next year is our program supervisor's salary for a part-time person. Trish?
So I did a little rough math here, and if you're talking about 400 individuals, $60,000, it's $150 a person.
They serve a pretty good meal.
I strongly encourage you to continue to fight against, there's got to be a better way to get with these people at a less expensive cost. I just don't understand.
The only thing I can say is this, I looked into it, and the Marnita's Table as a group, and for what she's done for other places, she's worked for school districts and stuff. She's done a fantastic job of getting small community, you know, the immigrant and at whatever communities that don't show up, she's done a very good job of getting them to show up for the dinners. Most of her dinners are at least 50% people of color, which is unbelievable in this area. And the one dinner she did have in Scott County had over 50% people of color, which was, the county had, another one that the county had done was for healthcare. So, Kate, I'll let you go first.
Still, the 150 a head is quite expensive. There's got to be a way that they can lower that dollar point, still have a very nice dinner and still have a good turnout.
Well,
It's
what
not
they-
going to cost.
What the cost that the cost that they, where they say the cost is they go out and actually canvass these neighborhoods where these people live and personally invite people, and they have to invite probably 10 people to get one person to show up. And they found that if they don't do that, they don't get the turnout.
So what you're saying is it's not just the cost of the dinner, it's the labor cost.
It's the labor
Probably the
cost and
presentation.
the other, so.
I mean, and I think if we all think this is as ridiculous as I think we think this is, and I'll say it's ridiculous, I think, and I also understand the point or the thought that you don't want to be the only one voicing this. So I'm wondering if it would make sense is we as a council were to draft something or send something so that it's not just the expectation that Mayor Bob's going and expressing all of this for all of us, that, or, you know, or we all show up and say how silly this is, or if we just do something more, I don't know, formal, so that it's not just on you, and that we can expect that it's done in an appropriate way.
I've watched this and I've watched this play out, and I think the best way, and this is just my opinion, but knowing the other people involved and the mayors that are going to the executive committee meeting, that the best way is to let it play out for another couple months. And there are some good things that are coming out of the 50 by 30. I think the housing group is starting to gel around some good ideas. Since I've been on the steering committee and going to those, I've actually attended all 4 of the other groups too. So there are some good ideas coming out. I'm not saying it's, and the good ideas are coming out of the groups that aren't spending a lot of money.
We're just talking about this dinner, not 50 by 30 as a whole.
No, but
Well, that's a whole other conversation.
the dinners, the 3 dinners are for 3 different groups. 1 dinner for each group. The only group that isn't having a dinner
It's the only fiscally responsible.
is the transportation group, which I chair.
Not the only fiscally responsible group. Housing spends no money.
You're spending $20,000.
No, great, fine. Maybe we're spending something.
And you get donuts.
I wasn't at the last meeting, so I,
But no, it's very, very tough, and the tide on this is slowly turning. I can say for a long time, I was probably the only one that was not 100% on board. I was on board with some of the ideas of 50 by 30, but not the route we were taking. So.
I think we just found $60,000 that Scott County can contribute to a roundabout if we cut out a few
Yeah,
meals.
but the problem you're gonna have there,
I know.
I know, but the problem you have there is, we've got 6 other cities that are gonna say the same thing.
And they should.
Sounds like 10.
But,
But then I just wonder, our city's actually saying that, because nothing seems to be changing. And we've been saying this for a long time now.
well, no, you can say nothing seems to be changing, but there are two mayors right now that are on board with the really clamping down on the budget that would have let them have anything before.
Well, and I think we'll find out in December if they approve a $60,000 meal ticket, and then we'll gauge by the actions that they take.
Well, you know, just because they approve that for next year,
I think it's a
doesn't
lot.
mean all three are going to happen. It doesn't mean that our current project coordinator is going to be there past the end of January. She's, I mean, that contract for her is, got a 30-day notice, which we built in at the very beginning. So it's not an easy thing, and you got to understand, most of this program is based on a social program. It's not, I don't think most of it is something that cities have a direct responsibility on. I mean, cities really have no direct responsibility to provide affordable housing. We have no, you know, we don't have to, but it's something we want to do if we can afford it. A lot of these programs that are coming out of 50 by 30 are just, I mean, I've went so far as to talk to two different school superintendents about 50 by 30, and both of them say as long as they, is for the education group, as long as they don't touch anything over 5 years old, we're okay with it. As long as they're talking about doing anything with 5 years old and younger, we won't fight it. But if they start getting into our territory, so it's not an easy thing. It's the overarching politics of this is much bigger than, and a good share of the county staff is all on board with it. So I just wanted to report to you what exactly is happening there.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Discussion by council.
Are we gonna go through the rest of it?
Well, the rest of them, we pretty much
They
went
haven't
through-
met, probably.
Well, no, they've met, but not much is, the housing just had more discussion.
Okay.
I wasn't able to make the meeting. I talked to some afterwards. It doesn't sound like the ball was advanced overly far. Were you at the?
I was at the meeting.
It
It wasn't,
doesn't sound like I missed a ton, so.
the best part of that meeting is I got to talk for a long time to Deb Barber, the other Met Council rep from Scott County. I mean, some of these meetings really don't get much done except for the talk to certain people afterwards or before. Transportation Committee met, but it was basically talking about SmartLink and some of the things we did there. Talked about the Scott County, Scott Carver Scott Mobility Management Board, and I serve on that. And that's the one that oversees SmartLink, volunteer drivers, and some of the other programs that are doing for driving in the state. And there's some things going on there, but nothing earth-shaking, except Uber and Lyft are fighting because the county and other counties are, for the volunteer drivers, have been reimbursing at 53.5 cents for volunteer drivers, but they're saying they should be getting 1099s for it because it's more than the 14.5 cents that the state allows and the federal government allows on for volunteer. So there's continuing things going on there, but we'll have to see how all that plays out. Any other discussion by council? Anybody got anything to bring up?
Motion to adjourn.
Not yet. I've got one item.
Okay.
We, as a city, we are just outside the limit of getting the ads and such for several of our bigger retailers in the area, namely Hy-Vee, the new one. Their limit is 20 miles, and we're just
Circulars?
for circulars. I have requested some data from Renee to take to, I started work at Hy-Vee. I was kind of recruited at a scale meeting. I'm working in their meat department,
Oh,
so I'm gonna just work part-time.
which one?
The new one in Shakopee. I had to stay in Scott County,
Okay,
you know, part
just
of,
checking.
you know how that goes. They made me an offer I couldn't refuse. But I have a chance over the next few weeks, because of the grand opening, I've had access to the CEO, a whole bunch of vice presidents and such, and I'm pitching our city every chance I get. And the reason I want the data is because, number one, I already found out we're on the list for their fulfillment center for internet orders. They'll be looking at us for that, for the industrial park. And we would be a very good area for them to increase their distance for their mailers to include us in their mailers because of our demographics. So those two things are both in the works. Once I get the demographics from Renee, which she said they've changed them, the way they do it, or making it more difficult, but I have all kinds of confidence in her.
Get some.
But, so those are things that I'm working on there. And I also talked to their developer who's doing store development. And it was in the Minneapolis Star Tribune also, but they are not going to build any more large stores in the immediate future in the Twin Cities. But they're looking at 10 to 19,000 square foot stores. And our demographics will be good for that, especially if we include the township and, you know, like a 7 or 8 mile radius. So, and those stores have been also in other areas have done very well for Hy-Vee. So they're going to concentrate on those for a couple of years. So me going to work there was kind of it wasn't that I wanted to go out of get out of retirement. It was I had a chance to meet with the people we needed to meet with on a personal level, which you don't get every day. So, it's been very good so far. So, thought I'd report that to you guys.
Cool, yes.
Anybody else have any discussion? Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Julius, second by Timmerman. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.